Ole Miss at Georgia, Saturday night. So it's not even the SEC 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central Time game. Saturday night, between the hedges, Georgia actually opened as a 12-point favorite. It's down to 11. The over-under set at 59.5. And it was funny. I was thinking about this game. We just talked a minute ago about, Torres's big thoughts in the preseason, right? And I picked Michigan to win the national championship. And I picked Michigan to win the national championship over Alabama. And everybody else pretty much had either Georgia winning it or at the very least in the playoff. And I said, I think Georgia gets tripped up somewhere. And the game that I had circled in my head was the Ole Miss game right before Tennessee late in the year. So it's amazing that we're here. And it's amazing that somehow there's even more at stake than I even could have imagined, than any of us could have imagined in the preseason. Georgia's obviously playing for a trip to Atlanta. It's worth noting, if they do not win this game, they are not guaranteed a spot in Atlanta, okay? Tennessee plays Missouri earlier in the day. If Tennessee beats Missouri, it means that it is essentially a winner-take-all Tennessee-Georgia game 2 weeks from now. Not this coming Saturday, but the next one. If Tennessee beats Missouri and Georgia loses to Ole Miss, and then Georgia were to lose to Tennessee and Tennessee beats Vanderbilt final week of the season, I know there's a lot on that, but it would be Tennessee going to the SEC championship game. So there's a lot at stake. And then obviously for Ole Miss, there's no secret, right? They are sitting with one loss in the SEC. It is to Alabama. They need to not only win this game, but they need help. Alabama has to either lose at Kentucky or at Auburn. The Kentucky game will be done by the time this one kicks off. So Ole Miss has a lot at stake as well. Should be a fun game, should be an exciting game. As I mentioned, the spread has already come down from 12 to 11. So a little bit of money coming in on Ole Miss early. In terms of this game, I think it's going to be a fun matchup. And I think, we're kind of at the time of the year. We know these teams. You don't need me to, this team does this well. And that we kind of know. Ole Miss is, of course, coming off that wild win over Texas A&M. Just feels like Lane Kiffin has Jimbo Fisher's number. And I give him credit because the defense did not play great, but they got the stops when they needed to, right? That big red zone pick that ended up going the other way for a touchdown was a 14-point swing. Texas A&M was about to take the lead. Instead, they intercepted a couple plays later. It's a touchdown. And obviously the late field goal, they block it, which leads to the victory. So credit to Ole Miss. The defense and the special teams made plays when they had to. And that offense is fierce, man. That offense is fierce. They run the ball well with Ulysses Bentley, with obviously Quinshon Judkins, excuse me. And then that kid, Trey Harris, the wide receiver transfer. My goodness, was he unbelievable. Over 200 yards receiving a week ago. For Georgia, it was kind of status quo, right? Georgia, to me, they remind me of a boxer. It feels like early in the game, first half of a game, they're kind of feeling you out. They don't go for the knockout punch early. Ole Miss sometimes goes for the knockout punch early. Michigan goes for the knockout punch early. Oregon goes for the knockout punch early. Georgia's just kind of giving you that jab, bodying you up, making you feeling you out. And all of a sudden you look up and it's close and it's early and it's this and it's that. And then they come out of the second half. They're prepared. They're disciplined. They're confident and they make plays. And the Missouri game was basically the same. Now, last week was a little bit different. Luther Burden, Missouri's best skill position player, got hurt in the second half. But it was interesting to me. Just another Georgia victory. And kind of like what I said about Michigan. Give this team so much credit because they never get rattled. They've been in so many big games. They're so confident. I think early in the year, I think there was a perception that they were sleepwalking early in games. I don't think they're sleepwalking. I think they're very confident about their ability to take your best shot early and withstand you over 4 quarters. What I will say as I turn my attention to this game, though, is we turn our attention. I think Georgia's got to be really careful with that here. Because, again, Georgia is a team that in the first half of games, again, feels the opponent out. Not saying they're lazy, they're sloppy, they're this, they're that. But go back. They trailed South Carolina at the half. Auburn was tied at the half. Missouri last week was trailed at the half. They went ahead and won all 3 of those games. But probably their 3 biggest games so far in the SEC, outside of Florida, trailed at the half and tied at the half in 2 of them. Can't do that against Ole Miss. One, you come out slow against Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin having a week to dial some stuff up. Lane Kiffin, like any great offensive coach, his best stuff is going to come at you that first and second drive when everything's on script. Georgia, I mean, Ole Miss could be up 14-3 if you mess around and goof off early. But then also, I think the second half, it's important because the second half, they're not going to let up. And they can keep scoring and they can keep piling it on. So this isn't South Carolina. This isn't Auburn where you're eventually going to wear them down. This is a different team with a different offensive skill set and a different ability, and you better be ready to play 4 quarters. Now, from the Ole Miss perspective, I have concerns as well. And it's specifically, believe it or not, it's the pass defense. Again, the parallels with Georgia and Michigan are kind of interesting now that I'm kind of talking it out. By the way, talking it out, these are 2 really fun games. But Georgia this year, I think we all think of Georgia as physical, run game, tough, mean, Kirby Smart. And it's like, no, Carson Beck has been awesome. Carson Beck is their quarterback. They have the 6th ranked pass offense in all of college football right now. And for people who thought that they were going to struggle in the post-Brock Bowers world, Carson Beck in the 2 games without him, 550 plus yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So yeah, I think they're just fine without Brock Bowers. They'd love to have him back. Not saying they would have loved to have him back, but what I am saying is they are doing just fine without him. As far as the game is concerned, listen, I think they're going to be able to move the ball through the air. Ole Miss, that pass defense has been not very good, bluntly. They haven't played a lot of great pass offenses when you think about it. And when they have, they've gotten torched. LSU torched them. How about this? Max Johnson. I'm not a fan of Max from Texas A&M. He kind of torched them last week. And so I think Carson Beck, it's going to be much the same. If I did have to make an official pick on this game, I mean, I can't bet against Georgia, right? And this was one in the preseason. Like I said, I thought Ole Miss might be able to win. Am I going to do it? I don't know. Let me say this. My official best bet in this game is the over. I think Ole Miss is able to put up 30 plus points. I think Georgia's defense is tested in a way that it hasn't been since the Ohio State game in the college football playoff a year ago. I also think that bluntly, Georgia is going to be able to move the ball pretty much at will. So if I had to make a best bet, I would actually say I like the over. I want to pick Ole Miss so bad because this was the game I had circled in the preseason, but I just can't do it. I mean, Georgia's just so good, so convincing, so confident. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be a wimp. I'm going to be a chicken. I'm going to be I can't do it. I can't bet against Georgia. What are you, out of your mind? So go ahead and give me Georgia winning, Ole Miss covering. I do like Ole Miss to cover the plus 11. And I do like the over to hit. Give me Georgia 38, Ole Miss 31. I like the cover, and I like the over in this game.